this Facebook boycott has now gathered up some of the biggest brands in America, in the world, really. Coca-Cola, Unilever, Starbucks, and Patagonia, North Face. Like there are a lot of huge brands that have said they are not going to advertise on Facebook for the month of July. This is big news. And I have to say, I fully support this effort. I think it's pretty phenomenal. And the genesis of this was not the advertisers themselves. It's not like Coke woke up one day and was like, you know what, like, let's give Facebook a hard time. So as usual, there were some other people that were working behind the scenes trying to make this happen. And in this case, it was the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, which is anti-hate generally. We tend to think of them as being anti-Semitism, I suppose, if that's like can you say anti-Semitism without making sense? And Color of Change. The campaign's called Stop Hate for Profit. And what they're asking Facebook to do is to change their ways in terms of how they police and monitor and enforce bans against hate speech on their platform.
And the reality is Facebook is advertising today. You know, they make $70 billion a year in ad revenue, but there's no way to sell a product right now on any sort of scale or hyper focus without using Facebook. And it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people have problems with them, because they don't need to listen to anyone. They are advertising, they are marketing. And even these companies, these massive brands are only a small percentage of their entire business, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, the numbers are really interesting, where if you look at the top 100 brands, they accounted for $4.2 billion in Facebook advertising last year, which sounds like a truck ton. But you're talking about a company that makes $70 billion a year, so 4.2 is, maybe 5 or 6% of the total. Right. And it's not like all 100 brands are turning it off for a year. You have maximally, right, these brands are turning it off for a month. So this is a significant dent, but it's not threatening like the core business of Facebook to the point where they're going to be having cash shortfalls, in part because of the universe of advertisers, like you just said, Zach. Because I remember when I ran a company, if you wanted to reach consumers, you had to advertise on Facebook. There were like the granddaddies of ways to reach people. It was Facebook and its Instagram affiliate, and then you had Google, and that's where a lot of your money was going.
It is a big deal that the companies that can afford to not advertise on Facebook are doing so. I think that's important. So it's more of, it's not just symbolic. It's, you've got the best American brands we have saying like, Facebook, this is wrong. And that is a big deal. They can have a lot more power. Even though they're a small percent of revenue, they've got a lot more power collectively, I think, than these mom and pop shops trying to throw their weight around.
This is absolutely terrible for Facebook's brand. Imagine being a company and having every major brand being like, no to advertising. I mean, if this happened to a TV show or personality, like this person would have to be, probably thrown off the air if every brand was like, no, thank you. So I don't want to understate the power of this boycott. Right. I think it's one of the most significant efforts I've seen in modern life that I can recall. And so the first question I think people might be asking is like, what did Facebook do? What did they do to deserve this?
Yes. What's the issue?
What's the issue? And a lot of it isn't so much what they did, it's what they didn't do. It's like
yeah.
They're just looking up and being like, well, first what they didn't do is they didn't actually take a hardline stance against a lot of content on the network or sources of misinformation or in some cases really rancid, horrendous messages. And so if you're a high-level advertiser, you're like a Coke or a Starbucks, you don't want your high-level product and brand associated with something sketchy. So that's like a concern that some of these advertisers are leveling. But Facebook has, number one, taken a very, very hands-off approach to just about anything on their site. And so that's a very legitimate concern that both civil rights activist groups and advertisers would have. And then number two, what they have not done is they have not been transparent at all about their own operations or standards. Whenever someone comes and criticizes them about what they're doing or not doing, they just say, essentially, trust us, we're working on it. And there was a period when that actually worked pretty well for them, because the Facebook brand was pretty positive, big text brand was pretty positive. People just associated them with innovation and ease and modernity. And there was this instinct, well, that Facebook knows better than the government. Facebook knows better than regulators. Right. Facebook. So when they said trust us, it actually like worked for a while. But now people are like, wait a minute, do we trust you? Like, what's really going on over there?
What have you done to earn that trust? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, let's see. You know, did Russians interfere with our election last time with your, you know, at a minimum, like not safeguarding against it? Was there a Cambridge Analytica hack of millions of users that there might have been others that we just don't know about? Like that one was publicized. Are you making tens of billions of dollars off of our data and we're not seeing a dime? Like these things are all true. And so now everyone's looking at Facebook and saying, actually, we don't trust you. And this is the situation Facebook is in. It's unprecedented in their history. Now, they have had a very poor track record of genuinely opening up their practices and coming clean and being subject to outside scrutiny. They're frankly just terrible at it. This is, and someone talked about how Facebook is less a company than a country or a civilization. I think I was talking to someone.
They're bigger than most countries, aren't they?
Oh, they have 2.2 billion users, so that's way bigger than any country. You know what I mean? So they're joking like it's Emperor Zuck and his 2.2 billion subjects, and so so they are really legitimately terrible at saying like, yes, here's what we did wrong, and you can check it out, and you know, we need help with this. Like, they genuinely think that they are bigger and smarter and better than anyone else in the world, and if you criticize them, their instinct is just to deflect and you know, like put out cryptic communications being like, we're working on it, we're looking at it. So there's a legitimate cultural problem that we can all see, that they don't feel themselves truly to be subject to much of anything from the outside world.
Facebook's generally been arguing, we are a marketplace for ideas. We're a platform for ideas. And that our users generate things, and we just exist. We have no, say, input into what goes on there. And so therefore, when there's terrible things on there or super positive things, we're just hands off. And now we're at the point where we're like, that's not cool. That's now become problematic. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that is right. They say we're not a publisher, we're a platform. And as a platform, we don't have responsibility or accountability for anything that people say on our platform, the way that, for example, a magazine or a TV network would have like standards.
Right.
And then they approach banning or restricting communication on their quote unquote platform as like, oh, that would be censorship. We're just like open forum and then let everyone do what they want. Now, that to me is a very convenient stance for them to take, but it also is, but it's not matching up to reality, because we have to acknowledge that Facebook at this point is the biggest publisher in the history of the world. Like, saying that we're not a publisher, like, your entire thing is content and advertising. Like, you're making $70 billion on ads. Like, you know what that really seems like to me is like a publishing empire or media empire, because you know how a lot of these media companies make money also on advertising. So if we hold them to certain standards, it seems strange for Facebook, which is bigger and richer than all of the other media companies combined, to somehow say like, no, we have less responsibility than all of these other companies. And this is a way for them to really maximize their revenue and profitability. It'd be one thing if Facebook were making decisions where it was like, oh, this is actually like against our interests. There was a Facebook investor who characterized it as like Facebook just hates friction. It just wants to grow, and it sees everything that you are throwing in its way as friction. This boycott, like how do we get rid of this friction? like that's like their restrictions on content, like that would be friction. Like they're just trying to be as frictionless as possible, and that worked during a growth phase of a scrappy startup, kind of. But at this point, you're the potentially the biggest, most influential company in the world. And so there's a whole list of demands that there are about 10 of them. I will go through some of the bigger ones because some of them are related to each other. So this one I thought was very, very important. Submit to regular third-party independent audits of identity-based hate and misinformation with summary results published on a publicly accessible website. Because Facebook, again, is a black box, and they're just like, hey, we got it. Like, our stuff says it's good. So that the boycott is calling for someone else to actually post the data in a way that's not completely subject to Facebook's own internal reporting. I think that is perfectly reasonable. I think providing an audit of and refund to advertisers whose ads were shown next to content that was later removed for violations of terms of service. Heck, if you removed content and I was an advertiser and I was next to that, I would not want to have paid for that ad. So
seriously, there's some really bad fails on there where it's like, most wholesome charities in the world advertising next to discriminatory hate groups, Facebook, whatever. Anyway, that's an easy one and fair in any other business, by the way.
The next demand: remove public and private groups focused on anti-Semitism, violent conspiracies, Holocaust denialism, climate denialism, white supremacy.
Yeah.
There's another piece around this that's ensure accuracy in political and voting matters by eliminating the political exemption, which is something around their disavowal of being able to verify whether or not a political ad is true or false. This to me is both common sense and irresponsible because cable networks say that they have to verify whether a political ad was true or false before they broadcast it. But Facebook's like, who's to know? We should let the voters decide.
Right.
It's like a voter has the time to figure out whether some Facebook ad served up to them was bullshit or not. So Facebook is clearly grappling with what to do about political ads. They recently made an announcement saying we could all turn off political ads if we wanted to on our Facebook page. Now, I'm sure that setting will be buried somewhere. Like I would be thrilled if it was a giant button saying like, you want to turn off political ads? Because I think a lot of people would click that button. And to me, having political ads on Facebook, if you're going to have them, you need to verify that they're not nonsense and misinformation and the rest of it, particularly given that we know there are foreign actors that have been interfering in our elections. So you need to actually take some responsibility. Having voters have the ability to turn it off, highly interesting. I like it. It's individual autonomy. And if I don't want to see political ads, I get to turn it off. Saying to Facebook, hey, no political ads at all on the platform, highly interesting. I wouldn't mind that either. You could make Facebook a politics-free zone. And clearly you're edging in that direction a tiny bit if you're letting people turn it off themselves.